Well, 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 you have finally got here. You are listening to the Erskine Music Podcast. Here, by popular demand, we discuss life, culture, Christ, and of course, music. These half-hour broadcasts are perfect for a commute, coffee time, chat, or any other gap in your schedule where you want to put great content. So without further ado, let's join the conversation today, already in progress.
I'm tricking the algorithm. When I start a show out, it's just kind of, that's usually the shows where I'm gonna be talking about abortion. I'm gonna be talking about all the stuff that will get me YouTube, Facebook banned. I'm going to be talking about that at the show. So pay attention. If I'm starting out at a show and I'm just goofy, it's because I want the algorithm to be like, oh, they're not talking about anything on the show. Nothing to see here, folks. And then by the time I get to the devotion, we warmed up and we're ready to go. So without further ado, let's get to our guest today. She's in waiting, and we do not want to keep a lady waiting. Our top story today, Paula Mosher Wallace, Dr. Wallace. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Paula, Dr. Wallace?
I am having a lovely morning. Excited to be on here, and I'm good with comedy and goofing off too.
Yes, you
not a
are.
problem.
Yes, you are. And I'm glad that you started by saying that. Because every time that we have interacted with one another, it's always been a great deal of levity.
Yes. It's very important to counteract some of the really serious material and life that I've had, actually. And the joy of the Lord is our strength, and laughter is the best medicine. And there's all kinds of ways that bringing that fun and joy into the work you do, especially when it's about trauma, abuse, addiction, suicide, all the really hard things. It's extra important to really spend time enjoying the life God's given us. So I do my best to do that.
Absolutely. And for folks that they're like, how do you have such awesome friends, Erskine? How does this happen that you get a chance to meet these doctors and these incredible people? Well, I'm just going to let people know out there. I go to these conferences and I meet people and I actually go and talk to them. I know, Gen Z, it's an amazing thing. I couldn't just text her because I didn't have her phone number. I couldn't just, write a message in Sky or do anything like that. I had to actually go and talk to her and have an actual conversation. Ding. And so we started talking and just, through the levity and different things, found out a little bit about who I was, Erskine Music, found out what her ministry was about. And it becomes one of those things when you're in the ministry. And I think that you'd probably agree with this, Paula. Dr. Wallace, what do you want me to call you?
Paula.
That's what I'd normally call her. But I didn't want anybody to think that I was disrespectful. Like, I didn't know who you were and you were coming on the show and I'm just, just totally just blowing you off in your credentials. But you start to try to figure out what are ways that I can be involved in someone's ministry? What are some ways that I can help in people's ministry? And that is indeed the kind of relationship that we've had. We got a chance to connect once again a few weeks ago in Orlando at a conference that we were both at. And I was like, man, now would be the time, a great time, as you're trying to get out and promote some things, to come on the Erskine Music Show. And, there's at least 4 or 5 people who watch this show. And so there'll be 4 or 5 more people who know what it is that you're doing. And I'm glad to help in that way. Could you catch us up with a little bit of your backstory and kind of what, circumstantially has brought you to this ministry?
Yeah, so I was born in Peru in South America in the jungles. Not the most average American start, but in a Christian commune, and I was the first baby born in that particular commune. I learned Spanish as my first language, and when my mom had to leave Peru to go get medical help in the United States, I was fostered out to a female elder in the cult, and that's when the abuse started in my life. She would beat me till I quit crying, beat me for not anticipated what she wanted me to do at 2 years old. And I don't have memories of that, but I have witnesses who watched that. One person told me that they had seen her abuse me. She was very powerful, so they didn't feel they could stand up to her, but they went and threw up. It made them so sick to see what was happening to me. And then when I was 5 years old, I was raped by a witch doctor who was part of the commune for a short time.
Hmm.
And that gives you kind of a messed up start, when you know that both men and women will hurt and abuse you
I
by
think
the
you can
age of
take the word.
5.
I think you can take the word "kinda" out of that sentence.
Yeah, it really jacks up your life.
That's an
And
awful
so
start.
I was in the cult until I was 25. I married a Canadian guy from the cult. I lived in communes in Peru, in the US, Canada, Alaska,
Hmm.
because it's a global cult. There's a TV show called People's Magazine Investigates Cults that you can find on Amazon. And season 2, episode 5 is the one I grew up in. So the marriage turned into a 15-year abusive marriage. The good news is I have 3 amazing sons that came out of that. And then the marriage ended when my husband spent 5 years off and on sleeping with my best friend. So add betrayal trauma.
Hmm.
Later on, I ended up in workplace abuse that was so extreme it turned into a federal, state, and local lawsuit and hit the news. Um, I could keep going, from losing babies to just the damage that the enemy causes
Yeah.
to steal, kill, and destroy. But it makes me super happy that I don't think any of that shows on my face. I don't think I look like anything that has happened to me.
Well, yeah, and so I want people who are watching this today, even if they're not in the comment section actively, I mean, maybe type something in the comment section to let people know this is a valuable conversation. But if you're just watching this today and you're listening to the conversation that we're having and you're going, man, that's awful, man, that's awful, man, that's awful. Your story and this episode is about redemption. It's about what can God do. And there are people who believe that they've fallen so far that there's ways, there's no way that God could use them based on their past. We're going to blow past all of that like a race car. Your life, your testimony, your smile, your dignity, the accomplishments that you've had in life are really a testament to what God can do when we believe and hope in Him and are surrounded by people who also believe and hope in Him and experience that community of care and love. So just wanted you to talk a little bit about how your ministry was founded and how you came out of that to where you're at today.
So 10 years ago, I moved to Nashville area, Franklin actually, to work at a homeschool publishing company.
Hmm.
And that went sideways within 3 weeks. And I was living in Tennessee with 3 sons and no support system. I did not know anybody in the state, had no friends. And I was sitting there going, God, I know you had me leave everything and everybody I knew to come here. Why? Because now I have no job, I have nothing. And what I felt he said to me in my spirit was, what did you need the most when you were hurting the worst?
Hmm.
When you were suicidal, when you were in addiction, when you were hurting and broken because of the trauma and damage and felt trapped, what did you need the most? And my honest answer was, I needed to know I was not alone and there was hope.
Come on. Come on.
And yeah, and in Revelations, it says they overcame Satan by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And the fact was, I grew up with no testimonies about childhood rape, no testimonies about extreme abuse. Nobody was talking about the shame based brokenness, anything that wasn't pristine and perfect and glorifying God was just not allowed. And when I was 18, I had talked to a woman in the cult who traveled around the world preaching, and I told her about getting raped when I was 5, and she said, don't ever let those words cross your lips. You're glorifying Satan.
Sure.
And shut the door on my getting help, and told me and her and a bunch of other people, this whole concept that I should carry the guilt and shame of what had been done to me.
Yeah.
And that is just seriously messed up, and it delays your belief that there's hope. And in one of the roughest situations, I just cried out to God, really begging him, like, can you give me somebody that has been through anything I've been through and has made it, has gotten through it, that they've found life despite these things. And he connected me to somebody in the church who seemed all like this amazing, proper female leader, a prayer warrior, beautiful reputation, was well respected. And I felt God told me to tell her what was going on. And I was scared out of my mind because of the damage from women when I was
Mm.
2 and damage after that. And so I, shaking and crying, I went to her and said, I'm dealing with this mess. And she started laughing. And I was just like freaked out, like my biggest fears, right? She's laughing. And
Do
she
what now?
goes, yeah, seriously. She goes, Paula, God had you come talk to me because of my story. Let me tell you what I've been through.
Okay.
And privately, she told me a story very similar to mine that was horrifying and broken and messed up, and how God had gotten her through that, and how she had survived it, how she had
Wow.
found hope and healing. And it changed everything. Not that the nightmare just magically disappeared, but I was no longer alone, and I suddenly had hope that it was possible. So in 2015, my answer to God was, I need to know I'm not alone and there's hope. And I need to know not just one person, I need to know that you have healed all kinds of people from all kinds of things, and that it's not just somebody is special or different or that they qualified somehow for your healing, but that any of us can come with any kind of brokenness. And I ended up writing a book called Bloom in the Dark, and in it we have 30 testimonies, stories, poems, even song lyrics that are about all types of shame-based brokenness, with women and girls of all ages, socioeconomic backgrounds, colors, races, all the things. And how in every single story, no matter what the problem, the brokenness, the shame, the sin, the addiction, no matter what it was, that God met each person and came in with hope and healing. And a girl stopped stripping because she read that book
Come on.
and asked Jesus into her heart and left the industry. There have been so many testimonies. We've donated over 14,000 copies into prisons and shelters and halfway houses, domestic violence shelters, etc., all over the country. And the goal is to say, hey, it doesn't matter what the enemy does to steal, kill, and destroy. You can have life and hope and beauty, and you can do amazing things in Christ. You can use that testimony to help bring hope and healing to others. And so I developed the term, it's in the book, of ex-victim. And in television, when we started that in 2017, the first 40 episodes, I wear a t-shirt with ex-victim across the chest.
I love it.
And people are like, what does that mean? Like, ooh, that's crazy. And I said, it means been there, done that, got the t-shirt.
I think I've heard you say that before, actually.
Yeah, because it's like I don't have to have shame around having been a victim.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that someone with more power, more strength, more control, whatever, that they use that to do harm. The guilt is on them. And the fact is, God redeems and heals and restores perpetrators too, not just victims. People also don't like to hear that many times. But that's the truth, that any of us can come to him and find hope and healing in Christ. And I want to demonstrate that there is hope and healing, and we don't have to carry shame. We don't have to carry guilt. It's all covered under the cross.
Walking
And that
with
we can
stride.
find beauty in life and joy. We can do amazing things. And the fact that there's TV shows, 2 different ones. One is a testimony show with 96 episodes that just yesterday we got licensed with the 49th network around the world. It'll be
Hey,
in
look at
5
that. Come on.
languages.
Hang on. You got to stop talking long enough that we can celebrate some of these things. We had a little party
Sorry,
here.
I tend to
I
get
know.
caught up in that excitement. So
Yeah, I want to celebrate with you.
thank you so much. So God does amazing, just mind-blowing, amazing things. when he heals and restores. And as Joseph said, with what the enemy uses for evil, God intends for good, the saving of many lives.
So a couple of things, and this is one quick excursus, then I want to pick up on some of the things that you said. The psychology of a cult, and a lot of it is, I don't even want to listen to what it is that you're saying. You deal with that. This is an issue between you and God, and just suppressing. And so I just heartfelt. I am super just grieved that not only you, but there are many people who have gone through that, continue to go through that. And people will ask the question sometimes, like, what is the value of all these different things? Well, I've always looked at it kind of like I do in street preaching. Like, does that actually work? Which is the worst question in the world to ask. Public proclamation of the gospel. The word will not return void. But let's take a survey of who's out there in the street. We got the Jehovah's Witness standing by the little sign with the little notes out there, and little suits and everything on. False gospel, sending people to hell. Okay. You have the hellfire and brimstone people that are out there shouting at everybody, no gospel included. Everybody's going to hell. A false gospel. There's all these disparate groups that are out there contending for people's attention that are going to send them to hell. Cults, all these other things, sending people to hell. So where are the people, and this is kind of touching on something that you said, where are the people who actually have the stories of redemption that we should be listening to, that we should be promoting, that we should be getting out there to people? And you, my friend Paula, certainly have one of those stories, and I'm glad that your platform is growing and that there are more and more people who are able to be delivered from some of these things. There will literally be people who hear your story, perhaps from the cult that you were in or perhaps from another cult, who will hear that story and they will say, that's me. That's me. And if she can walk this path, I can walk this path as well. So thank you for that.
Well, that certainly gives a sense of why people enjoy this show. Very engaging, very heartfelt. We will return to the conversation in a few moments, but first, let's thank our sponsors, Life Action Ministries, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and you for all your awesome support. And Holt International. Thanks so much to our partners who make such a difference.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, I'm Dawn.
And I'm Steve of Don and Steve Plus. We're a podcast, and if you've not checked it out, I hope you'll do that. You can visit our website. It is donandsteveplus.com, or you can find us wherever you get your podcasts.
We do hope that you'll be able to join us, even as you continue to follow Erskine Music. Erskine does such a great job of bringing out topics. They're not all easy.
Right. I love that he'll tackle just about any topic.
He will tackle any topic and invite you to the conversation, which is always a plus because learning the art of conversation, well, it's much needed.
It certainly is. And he does a great job with those conversations. So Erskine, thanks for doing that. Thanks for tackling those tough topics. And thanks for listening to the Erskine Music Show.
All right, let's get back to the show. This is where it gets good.
We call it drinking the Kool-Aid. And the fact is, when you're in that space, it is a willful suspension of disbelief. You actually are not able to accept anything that doesn't fit the narrative. And I tell that working with people underground on the other side of the world. That's all I'll say about that part.
Yeah.
But in working
in that map area over there that I'm
on that map on the other side of the world. Working with people who've been through extreme trauma and trafficking, and to help them understand what it is that happens. I talked about an eagle hatching in a chicken coop and growing up to believe it's a bad chicken. Even when you take it out of the chicken coop and tell it it's an eagle and teach it to fly, it knows it's still a bad chicken because all of its development was in a space of being trained and hurt and conditioned to believe it's a bad chicken.
That's a good analogy.
Complex trauma like that actually distorts your identity. It's not just wounded identity, it's distorted identity, shattered identity. Oh. And cults, especially when you're born into them, it is your entire universe. You don't have anything to put it up against, to go, oh, well, this isn't true. This isn't right. This isn't whatever. You grow up drinking the Kool-Aid and it becomes intrinsic to your perception of yourself and the world. And so I say it's much easier to get the girl out of the cult than it is to get the cult out of the girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the eagle to recognize it's an eagle in that scenario, which we have a picture book that tells that story. And I say it's my autobiography in a bird children's picture book. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
We'll get to that here in just a second, but I want people to know, my team also wanted people to know, bloominthedark.org. We're going to be looking at that here in just a few moments. But I wanted to get into the Bloom in the Dark, your specific ministry there. Founder, chairman, CEO, ex-victim, trauma coach, producer, director, author, speaker, TV personality. There's more. But wait, there's more. The initiative that you were working on now is one that we talked about a few weeks ago. Can you tell the folks about that?
So the children's book is one that I'm Not a Bad Chicken is the name of the picture book. And that one has a complex trauma recovery program called HEAL, stands for His or Her Eagle Academy Life, which is something that we're working behind the scenes, mostly underground missions style. We have
which is funny because some of the stuff that you're doing, you really can't talk about all that much, but we need people to get you funded to do the things that you can't talk about, which is really, isn't that kind of a weird place in ministry?
Yes.
Very. What are you doing? Well, I can't tell you what I'm doing. What you need the money
but
for?
I need help with it.
But so I think I wanted us to be able to do an interview long enough for people to recognize this is a woman of good faith. This is a woman whose story needs to be broadcast. There's several different avenues. She can't even tell you all of what she's working on and what it is she's doing, but you just need to know the character, the reputation, and the ministry. This is not something that was just started. And so for people who are wanting to get in contact with you and people who are wanting to support what it is you're doing, I want to make sure that they have that on the screen, they know how they can participate in this. bloominthedark.org, and there's a link to be able to get to you that way, right?
Yeah, you can contact me directly that way. You can give that way. You can download actually a free book, Bloom in the Dark, that we talked about. You can download it for free under resources tab on bloominthedark.org. The very first thing is the downloadable. You don't even have to put in your email address. You can just click download now and it'll go straight to your device. And that is a way that you can read those 30 stories we were talking about, find hope and healing. That book's also available to purchase through Amazon or wherever if you want a paperback copy of it. But if you just want to quietly find out what's available for hope and healing in that space, and we have curriculum, we have we just launched 10 therapeutic journals. We have the Unfair Grace platform that we're developing, where unfair grace, the brokenness and damage we work through, is unfair. But the fact that Jesus died on the cross to give us eternal life is even more unfair, considering the fact that he's perfect and he will heal and restore. But he asks us to forgive, which feels very unfair. But then he forgives us, which is definitely unfair. That he went through what he did for our forgiveness. And so Unfair Grace Central will be a location where you can find media that's safe for the hurting, broken, those dealing with trauma, addiction, suicide issues, depression, all of the shame-based brokenness, the things we want to hide and not admit to in public, or that we have been talked down to or treated badly because of. Right. And so we're looking to expand that. We have a feature film in the works, trauma and comedy, that shows how facing our past and using the strength of standing up to the brokenness to be able to change our future, and how that changes everything, and how important a support system is, where you can laugh and cry and go back and forth between laughing and crying throughout the film. We have so many different ways because if people are there and they're hurting, we want to be where they are, where they're consuming media, where they are willing to read or listen. And we want to be sharing that hope and healing. Just saying it's not just you. There's, billions of us hurting and broken and dealing with damage. Yes. And Christ came that we could have life and abundant life. So we get to talk about how to do that. And I just so appreciate being here and being able to say, hey, abundant life is real, it's possible. And Yes, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of healing. You have to face and deal with the brokenness and the damage, but not from a place of hopelessness. You get to face it from a place of redemption and healing and empowerment and growth. And you can have post traumatic stress growth instead of post traumatic stress disorder. And that is what Christ does.
Well, you probably already know that when you hear that sound, there's music on the way. After all, this is kind of a music show. Sit back and enjoy. All the music can be easily found on your favorite digital distribution channels. Turn up the volume and here we go.
Got my attention to hear what you say. I've been listening closely, so I don't miss a word. No, I can't go back where I was before. I'm moving forward, chasing so much more. So much more. I started coming alive, setting the world on fire. Nothing can stop me now. My past won't hold me down. No more going in circles, blazing another path, and I'm not going back. No, no more going in circles. No more going in circles.
Still getting stronger, stronger every day. Emotions that held me don't hold me anymore. No, I can't go back where I was before. I'm moving forward, chasing so much more, so much more. I started coming alive, setting the world on fire.
Nothing can stop me now. My past won't hold me down. No more going in circles, blazing another path, and I'm not going back. No, no more going in circles. I'm not going in circles. No more going in circles. You give the strength to change, can't put out this flame. No, you give the strength to change, can't put out this flame. No,
Nothing can stop me now. My past won't hold me down.
no more going in circles, blazing another path, and I'm not going back. No, no more going in circles, round and round and round, round and round and round, round and round and round and round and round.
I wanted to ask you to fill in the gaps. I know there's, the stuff that you're talking about, you can talk about, and there's other stuff that you can't talk about on the show that you're working on, some sensitive areas and some stories that maybe come to mind, because as you're doing this, there's all sorts of stories that I'm sure your team is gathering and things that perhaps you knew that you were trying to do. And then God sort of surreptitiously lets us know that there's things that you had no idea that was going on, maybe things that you didn't even intend to happen that were a positive consequence of the fact that you're out there doing so many different things. Any of those stories that you are able to share in terms of ways that you see God move?
Yeah, there's the testimonies that come out of the work we do, and then there's the testimonies of how God equips us and funds the work that we do, because we actually don't do fundraisers at all. And doing ministry for 10 years in media, which is very expensive to do
Mhm.
broadcast television and in the Christian
Yes.
marketplace, to film and record things, we have over 145 episodes that we have filmed in 2 different television shows. God has shown up in crazy ways. Like, I didn't have the money to get to the NRB conference one year, and I had been told there was like a free access once I got in there, but I didn't know where that was yet. So I literally snuck in through the loading dock because I knew how to get in that way. And then met somebody who was like, and this is where you go to get that badge that you need. Like, seriously.
We got to beg,
parking-
borrow, and steal.
the
We're
free
climbing
employee
through
parking
exits
lot.
and
Just letting y'all know, sometimes you do
hiding
whatever
in the
it takes.
cargo hangar to get to these international flights. I love it.
Yeah, to do whatever you need to. The
You go serve
comedy
the
of
Lord.
it, and I just honest, like that. I knew I needed to be there, and it was where I was at the time. And I walk in there and meet some men at a booth, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And tell them we're working on this curriculum for complex trauma and addiction recovery. And they're like, "Oh, do you need money?" And
First
I
question
said,
I ask you. It's like, oh,
yes, like, this is weird. And their nonprofit ended up funding 52 episodes filmed at high def and adapted to television and curriculum, and the 5 workbooks we were developing, and all of these things that came out of obeying God and getting somewhere despite all odds, and then having God have the people right there that had been looking for 20 years for content that included the trauma underway to addiction and
oh man,
recovery
it's just there.
body, right? So, like, I couldn't have planned that. I didn't strategize it. It wasn't best practices. It was obeying God despite everything and watching God show up in ways that did huge things.
Hang on a second. I hasten to say this, but people who watch this show, people who live around me, you expect me to say that at this point. So I'm just going to give it to you like it is. You don't have time to get ready when it's time to be ready. And when these people ask, what can we do to help? She was ready. You say, hey, we got this. We got this episode. We got this thing. And this is ready. This is ready to go. Boom, 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 boom. I'm just trying to let you know, if you're out there and you're thinking, well, someday I could dream about maybe doing a ministry and maybe helping somebody. No, you should already start it. But that's okay. Go ahead and start today with doing the things that you can do. And the Lord is going to meet you on the other side of that. I love that. You know what? I knew instantly we were going to be friends when you just kind of had this personality of like, you know, just do whatever we got to do here. Not unlawful in any regard, but just a little grinder. Like, it wasn't like all handed to you. You had to go out and do some work and, you know, figure out some things and put some pieces together. And I can really appreciate the street smarts of that. We do more with less. Every single day.
God does all of it, but I've had to do some very unique, unusual, weird obediences to what he was asking me to do when I didn't understand and I didn't know why it mattered or why it was important. And in doing that, doors opened that I could never have forced open in a million years with all the effort in the world, because obedience to God unlocks things. It opens doors and opportunities. And I told somebody that story. They wanted to get into television, and I told them how we went international within a month of launching. And they told somebody else. So she just lied to me. She wouldn't tell me the secret sauce. And I was like, actually, that was the secret sauce.
What do? Submit your work unto the Lord and your thoughts will be established. No, but what do you really do? I get that sometimes.
Yeah.
You
No,
go
you
and
don't
do
just
what
do
God,
that.
do the
No,
first
it
thing that
doesn't
God
happen
told you
that way.
to, and then the next thing that God tells you to, and then the next thing that God tells you to. I know, but what do you really do? I love those kind of conversations. All right, before we get out of here, I want you to maybe tell us, what of all the things you're talking about here, what are you most excited about?
I'm absolutely most excited about spending time with my three boys. That is the redemption. They are not the statistics they should be based on what they've been through and
Come on.
what they've walked through. And they have been supporting me right now. They're actually financially supporting me. I live with them. Something people are like, what? And I'm like, yeah, my two older boys are 22 and 24. And they're paying the bills. There are times where because we don't fundraise, they do not live the lives that you would expect if you saw on paper what they've been through. And I had come home from a long trip from England, and I was exhausted after like 18 hours of travel. And my watch tracks my metrics because sometimes I just don't realize how hard I'm pushing. And so it will kind of give me warnings if I'm pushing too hard. And I got home and they were up waiting for me, and we just hung out and goofed around, and it was total nonsense, boy mom ridiculousness. And my watch tracked that after a very long hard day, my watch showed I had almost no stress at all. I had all the energy in the world. Just that time with my kids counterbalanced 18 hours of intense travel and delays and lack of sleep the night before. And I was just like, you know what? God's gifted me this time where I still get to see them and spend time with them in a way that brings my heart joy and life and reverses so much of the hardship that goes with being immersed in trauma recovery related work 24/7. And to have those places where you just see God's beauty and healing.
Praise God.
Of your kids.
Praise God. That is awesome. All right, don't you start getting your tambourine out, or this episode is going to go a little bit long. How can we be praying for you?
Just praying that God provides what's needed, that he opens the doors, that he accomplishes through me, through Bloom in the Dark as an organization, through everybody working to reach the least of these, the one lost sheep, the people that God has called to find the hurting and the broken, that he would provide everything needed, including our own healing and character growth and development, so that we can be effective for his kingdom to bring healing to those that the enemy's tried to destroy, that already believe they're behind the gates of hell. But like, we get to go rescue them and show them hope and healing, and then empower and equip them to be the ones rescuing others. Because when you've been the lost sheep, you know where we are, you know how to find us, you know what we need to hear and understand. And there need to be millions of us doing what I do. I absolutely believe that. So just that God would show up and
Raising up the army.
the team. They don't need to be connected to me or this organization, but that God would raise up the people who need to be out there finding the hurting and offering them hope and having the testimony that empowers them to do that.
We have come to the end of this episode. Don't miss a final word from Erskine.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being a part of the Erskine Music Podcast experience. To all of our guests that come on the show, and for all of our sponsors, thank you guys so much for being a part of it. And for you who listen to the show, you and I, we make this thing happen by simply being kind to one another in the comment section, and then going as followers of Christ and living this thing out. If anybody needs more information, erskinemusic.com is where you start, and then all the nonsense starts, all the social media that's out there. But let's go live it out. See you guys very soon.